Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, in the previous video we explained to you how the atheistic model of the physical body encompassing our brain, and our brain is everything and anything, that our conscious and subconscious mind reside in our neuron and nothing more than that. And you have explained to the other level in which we Muslims believe that we have not only the conscious mind, we have the subconscious or the unconscious mind, we have the supraconscious, which is all linked from the realm of the Creator. So when Allah created this universe, He command this existence of this universe, and He command the existence of consciousness. So the nature of consciousness comes from the realm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it comes from the absolute intellect. So when we say that we have the universal consciousness, because a lot of these new age people would like to use, we believe in the universal consciousness. What do you mean by universal consciousness? He is the supreme intellect. What do you mean by the supreme intellect? They will stop at that point. They will not say God, they will not say the Creator, they will not, because basically they have this phobia. The moment you talk about God, then they say it is, you have to believe in God. So in our discussion, we can ask them, if you believe in universal consciousness, is that consciousness having intelligence? Is it intelligent? You say, yes, this whole universe is intelligence. This whole universe reflects supreme intelligence. So, if you say this universe reflects supreme intelligence, you mean the essence of this universe is the one that created this universe? No. Because in Islam it's very clear. We have what we call the Zat and the attributes. The Zats, or the inner nature, or the essential nature, or the essence of Allah, the Creator, we cannot know. That's why the alim, the ulama, the scholar says, and even Rasulullah says, there are 72,000 veils that separate us from the understanding of the absoluteness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we can't, because it is beyond our capability to reflect on the essential nature or the Zat of the Creator. Why? Because things that He created alone is beyond our mind, beyond even our conscious. Even if we say that we have some idea of the supraconscious realm, the realm of the spiritual, it's still limited, because absolute intellect is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'll just read to you a passage of the Quran which you recite very often, and I explain to you why our knowledge in terms of understanding the nature of consciousness is just a very fundamental knowledge. That truth is blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us, and He tells us about the nature of His knowledge. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innal ladzina amanu wa amilus solihat kanat lahum jannatul firdausi nuzula khalidina fiha la yabna an hawala kullau kana al bahru midadan li kalimati rabbi wa nafidal bahru qabla an tanfada kalimati rabbi walau ji'na bimithlihi madada qul innama ana basyarum mithlukum yuha ilayya annama ilahukum ilahun wahid faman kana yarju liqa'a rabbih falyamal 'amalan salihan wa la yusyrik bi ibadati rabbih ahada. So this Allah tells us in the Quran. Alright. As for those who believe and work righteousness, they have for their entertainment the garden of paradise. Therein they shall dwell forever, no change will they wish for from them. Say, if the ocean were ink, therein to write out the words of Allah, therein to write out the words of my Lord, sooner will the ocean be exhausted than the words of my Lord, even if you were to add another ocean like it. So if you're going to write the knowledge of Allah, you take all the ocean in the universe, not only the ocean in the world, because there are oceans in other planets. There's so many oceans all over. You take all the oceans in the universe, and you add another ocean, it cannot even reflect one iota of the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then in verse 110, Allah says about Prophet Muhammad, so say, I am but a man like you. So this is a command to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Say, I'm a man like you, but inspiration has come to me that your Lord is one God. Whoever expects to meet his Lord, let him work righteousness, and in the worship of his Lord, admit no one as partner. So this is the verse that tells us the nature of the supreme intellect, the absolute intellect. Okay, so if we have some knowledge of our understanding in terms of the spiritual realm, the roh that Allah has given us, the qalb, the heart that Allah has given us, the mind or the akal that Allah has given us, and the physical body in which we are aware, then we should be able to bring this idea of the nature of consciousness to the world today, because this is the truth. This is the most accurate worldview of existence on this earth. So Islam has this very accurate. We are not saying the ancient tradition. We have many ancient tradition. The Vedic tradition, the Buddhist tradition, the Chinese tradition, the Roman tradition, which brings the idea of truth. Because all ancient tradition, the root come from where? Come from revelation. It comes from the absolute intellect. The absolute intellect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed himself through the development of human being, because we look around, we are the only creature endowed with what we call it, very high level of consciousness. Everything that is created has consciousness. Even electron has consciousness. The amoeba has consciousness. The trees, the plants, the animals all have consciousness at various levels, and this was discussed very deeply by all the scholars of Islam. If you read their book, there's so intense discussion asking whether a tree has a soul. And they were discussing this. Does a crystal have a soul? And this was discussed by our great scholars in the glorious days of Islam, and they come to a conclusion and the segregation and the classification. And you'll find that the classification is so fantastic, but only it is couched in the ancient language, not in the maybe the language of chemistry or the language of biology or the language of zoology, but the language in which people at that time can understand. But if you reflect deeply, they have brought this idea that the absolute knowledge belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have not even an iota of that knowledge, and we must always be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always humble ourselves to realize His grandeur and glory, and submit ourselves to the absolute intellect, the absolute creator, the absolute will. Because everything that He gave us are the attributive aspect. So He has, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His attribute, in Islam we have many attributes, all the positive attributes and all the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we'll always classify them to the 99 names of Allah. For example, we call Allah Ya Ghafoor, most forgiving, Ya Wadud, most loving. So we imbue in ourselves some small measure of forgiveness, of love. He's Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He is the most merciful, most compassionate. So we imbue ourselves the values of mercy and compassion. He is the supreme intellect. Alright? He is the absolute creator, possessor of absolute will. All those are attributive aspects from the absolute intelligence that we come from His creative will. That means when He will, this absolute intellect wills. This is the concept of will. He wills our existence. This is then, from this realm of the creation, we have time and space. We have the nature of the supra-consciousness in terms of a spiritual, emotional, mental realm that is part and parcel of the need to have consciousness. Because if you don't have this spiritual, emotional, and mental capacity, you cannot undertake the job or the vocation of being a human being, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us as His representative on earth, His vicegerent, and Allah tells us He created us as His Khalifa, His vicegerent on this earth. So to take that burden of vicegerency, we must have the intellect, we must have will. So our will, in reference to the Allah's will, for example, Allah is the intellect, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the absolute intellect. So we have in small minds relative, very small measure. We have relative, what do you call it? Intellect. So this is a small little clump that we have. Will, Allah has absolute will, we have this relative will. Alright? So the same thing in all our attributive aspects. That's why we can carry this burden of the Khalifahood. That's why we can then understand the nature of our existence, the nature of the existence of other beings, other creatures, the existence of the universe, understanding quantum physics, understanding Planck, understanding string theory, you name it, whatever that we are learning, it is just not even an iota in the kingdom of the knowledge of God. So never be arrogant. Never be like those atheistic scientists. Oh, we are so great. We discover Planck Lang, or we discover this, we discover that, and they talk as if they are the absolute. We are nothing. We are out of the grace of the Creator, out of the love of the Creator, that we are given this position of being able to be conscious of those creatures below us and being conscious of the Creator who created us. So if we understand this, then you understand the perfect realization of the worldview and the metaphysical parameters of Islam, which is so fantastic. And the more I dwell into this, the more I realize it, the more I see it is such a beautiful deen. There's a lot of misunderstanding, but if we can bring about Islamic psychology, frame it up so that the world can understand the nature of this beautiful nature of this deen, of being the Caliph of Allah, of doing good, helping others to be good, making ourselves good, and striving to achieve the best, fulfill the best, and receive the best, inshallah, we would be able to first practice our deen with full confidence. Not only that we have iman, we have just normal iman, we have iman ilmul yaqeen, the ilm that Allah has given, this knowledge, the relative knowledge that we have been given is enough to bring us close to Allah. Beautiful. So that ilm, then we can progress to ainul yaqeen. We can see with our own eyes this whole creation. It doesn't come out of thin air. It comes from the will of an intellect, absolute intellect. So we see that with ainul yaqeen. And most important, we reach a level imanul haqqul yaqeen. It is the truth, the absolute truth that is ordained upon this creature called a human being to realize the grandeur of the Creator, to submit to Him, to realize Him, and you have Allah, who is your protector and guider, because Allah tells us, Allahu waliyul ladina amanu yuhrijuhum minaz zulumati ilan nur. So Allah is your protecting friend. Yuhrijuhum minaz zulumati ilan nur. He brings you from darkness, from misguidance, from atheism to the light of truth. So if we can live our life progressing towards this understanding of the absolute nature of Allah and the relative nature of our existence and our obedience, our reliance, our submission to the one who is most loving, we will lead a wonderful life, blessed with iman, blessed with happiness, blessed with peace, blessed with achievement, that whatever you desire is all possible. Because whatever you desire is nothing but a clump of nothingness that Allah, when He wills kun fayakun, it will be, and it will be given to you with simplicity. So inshallah, you understand this, you understand this basic idea of consciousness, subconsciousness, superconsciousness, and the understanding of the will and the absolute knowledge. You have a good framework on the parameters of the metaphysics of Islam. Inshallah.